And welcome into the college football pregame. Auburn versus LSU, presented by High Noon Hard Seltzer. Hakeem Dermish here, it's CBS Sports college football analyst and co-host of the Cover 3 podcast, Barton Simmons, and CBS Sports college football analyst Barrett Sallee, who joins us from Baton Rouge. Barrett, I'll start with you. Give us the weather report there in Death Valley.
Yeah, a little cold. It's kind of spitting some rain. The wind comes up every once in a while, so it's not going to be the best weather out there. The wind has actually calmed down for a little while. They don't expect rain, at least in the first half. It might pick up in the second half. So it certainly will be a factor. Maybe not as much as in other games throughout the course of the day, but it certainly will be a factor.
Barrett, we know that Death Valley at night is different than Death Valley during the day. How would you describe the difference?
I would say that crowd noise is probably a little bit bigger at night. They take more pride. They get a little bit more rowdy. They have more time to prep outside before the game. So it definitely is loud. It's intimidating. I think the aura and the reputation of Death Valley at night is probably a little bit more of a factor than how much of a factor from a crowd noise perspective it is. I mean, look, loud is loud. When you fit 100,000 people in this place and they're sauced up, looking ready to root for their Tigers, it's going to be loud. And for a team like Auburn that plays in big atmospheres, has played in big stadiums before, they're pretty well versed on nonverbal communication. So it is a factor for sure, but there is a slight difference because at night, I mean, look, let's be honest, strange things happen down here sometimes.
Yeah, that's for sure. LSU averaging 50 points per game, one of the highest scoring teams in the nation, Barton. Auburn giving up an average of 17 per game. Joe Burrow leading this awesome offense. Favorite to win the Heisman now that Tua is injured. He's completing 79% of his passes. But could you see this Auburn defense keeping Joe Burrow in check?
It's all about what happens up front in this game. And it's really about specifically the offensive line, defensive line. This is an Auburn defensive front that can get to the quarterback without bringing a lot of extra pressure. This is an LSU offensive line that wants to block you one-on-one. They're only going to block you with 5 guys. They want to get as many guys out into those routes to let Joe Burrow pick you apart as possible. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see whether Joe Burrow can handle the pressure that he's likely to get from probably the best defense he's going to see all year, maybe the best defensive line in the country. And you see the numbers. It's been phenomenal, the completion percentage, the touchdown to interception. But I think the way he has responded in big moments, when he's staring down the barrel of the gun, when there's a defender bearing down on him, he's been really good, stepping into the pressure and making big throws. So he's going to have to prove that and double down on that today with that Auburn defensive front. But again, a lot of that's going to depend on what that LSU offensive line can do as well.
LSU's only had one Heisman Trophy winner back in the late 50s. Barrett, I want to come to you here now. You've seen a lot of Joe Burrow this season. Why has he been so successful?
Well, because those long developing routes, the offensive line has played really well, and his receivers get open deep downfield. And I think the biggest thing with Joe Burrow is that he does stand in the pocket and he does take hits. I know Texas's defense is not good at all, but go back and watch that game. He got hit in the teeth consistently by Texas's defense and had his best game as a college player. So I think his toughness, the leadership qualities that he had, I actually asked Ed Orgeron about that yesterday when we met with him at the football office, and he said, hey, look, from the moment Joe Burrow stepped on campus, he was the leader. The players rally behind him. But his arm strength and his accuracy deep downfield, combined with the fact that he works so well with an up-tempo offense, I think has made a world of difference this year. Last year, the offense did not really suit what his strengths are. I think this year, when you have tempo, when you have deep downfield passes, long developing passes over the middle with guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and you combine that with a little bit of work from him on the ground as well, it's the perfect offense for what he does best, and as a result, he is where he is. He's a Heisman Trophy favorite at this point.
Barrett, I'm going to come right back to you in terms of the other quarterback. What's your expectation for Bo Nix and how he's going to execute this offense today?
Well, a lot of that depends on coaching. Bo Nix on the road has not been that great this year, although he was really good last week against Arkansas. But let's be honest, that's Arkansas. A lot of people could be good against them. But I think for Bo Nix, they're going to try to establish the running game. In fact, we heard last night that Jatarvius Booby Whitlow, their #1 running back, did travel with the team here. So they're going to have to get the running game going, whether it is with Whitlow or Cam Martin or Anthony Schwartz around the edge or DJ Williams or whoever. So when it comes to Auburn, get that accomplished first, and then let Bo Nix do what he does best, and that is work that RPO game. The one thing that Auburn hasn't done, and I want to see if they do it today, is work in crossing routes over the middle. They haven't done that really at all in an RPO-based offense. You would think that that would be a big part of their game, but it really hasn't been. And then on top of that, I think that Auburn's going to try to slow it down a little bit. Let Bo Nix decompress a little bit. Don't put too much on him too quickly, because Auburn knows and the coaching staff knows that the best way to keep Joe Burrow limited is to keep him on the sidelines. Now, that goes against everything that Auburn does in terms of how they operate, but it also, I think, would take some pressure off Bo Nix and let him get him in the flow of the game early and not put too much on him too quickly.
What have your impressions been of Bo Nix thus far, the freshman?
He's got great poise. He's got some real intangibles. I think he's comfortable more so than most freshmen in these big moments. I do think he has some flaws. He has some weaknesses. You know, he is not a big-armed kid. He is not one that at this point in his career can just sit in the pocket and make plays with his arms, regardless of what the defense throws at you. He's best when he is improvising, extending plays, getting outside the pocket, throwing on the run, and getting involved in the run game. And so I think it's going to be important for Gus Malzahn today to find ways to get him comfortable in the run game as well.
All right, 10 undefeated teams in FBS. LSU is one of them. Barrett, I'll come to you here before you give your prediction. What has to happen for LSU to stay perfect on this day?
Keep Joe Burrow clean. Have that offensive line play another great game. The last couple of games, Ed Orgeron said this yesterday, they've played their best 2 games, but he also said, oh, look at number 5, Derek Brown. He'll come at you. And it's true. Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, they're going to have to figure out which one of those guys to double team because you can only double team one of them, and that leaves the other wide open. That's why these 2 guys have combined for 5 Defensive Linemen of the Week awards in the SEC. So I think they're going to have to keep Joe Burrow clean. As long as Joe Burrow does not take a ton of hits, I think he'll be fine. The problem for Joe Burrow is that the windows are going to be tighter because Auburn's not going to necessarily have to bring all those guys. But keep Joe Burrow clean. I think he'll be okay, and that'll ultimately lead LSU to a win.
Yeah, look, I think that on the other side of the football is really where the key lies. I think LSU, as good as that Auburn defense is, and they're really good, I still think LSU is going to get there. They're going to get some points. To me, it's about what is that LSU defense going to do in terms of making Auburn play off balance, getting Bo Nix out of sync, creating some issues for that offense and make them do some things they don't want to do. Can LSU take away the interior run game? Can it take away the big play pass threat of Seth Williams? Can it force Bo Nix to stay in the pocket and throw and lean on some of those traits that he's not quite developed yet? So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this Dave Aranda defense can put together, what the back end can do, and the different problems they can give that Auburn offense. Because to me, that's really the key of this game. If Auburn can dictate pace, if Auburn can hang on to the football, they got a real shot.
All right, Barrett, let's get your prediction for this game. How will this game be decided?
I think it's going to be a heavyweight fight. I think you're going to see Auburn hit them with some big plays. They're going to try to get misdirection going, try to stress that LSU defense east and west, and because of that, I think Auburn will hang around for 3 quarters. I do think it'll be a somewhat lower scoring game, especially with these elements, but in the end, I see Auburn's offense sputtering out late, LSU getting a couple of big plays. We saw last week Jacoby Stevens with a big interception. They've got too many weapons, and they're too well coached for Bo Nix to come out there and win with his arm. So in the end, I think Bo Nix makes a couple of mistakes. LSU pulls away late and does get the cover, but it'll be a lot like that Florida LSU game from here a couple weeks ago where it's close pretty much throughout and then it sort of gets sideways extremely late.
All right, Barrett, thanks. Enjoy another bowl of jambalaya for us there. Keep on
I'll do my best.
All right, love that. LSU's won the last 9 home meetings. Auburn's last win at LSU came in 1999. And a friendly reminder, you can watch number 9 Auburn take on number 2 LSU on CBS. Kickoff coming up 3:30 Eastern. Join us here at halftime and postgame. Coverage you won't find anywhere else. SEC on CBS Game of the Day.